Hey guys, it's Sarah. Today's video is going to be all about your questions and struggles that you've had with going cruelty-free. I asked you guys last week on my YouTube community tab and also on my Instagram stories, what were the biggest things that you've struggled with when it comes to going cruelty-free, things that you're confused about, products you can't seem to find a cruelty-free replacement for. Really hoping this will be helpful to anyone who is anywhere on the cruelty-free journey, if you will, or even anybody who's just kind of wondering what it means to be cruelty-free. Maybe you're not cruelty-free, maybe you have no interest in being cruelty-free, but you just kind of want to know more about it. So I wanted to start with a question that I got quite a few times. Haley asked, how do you know what source to use and trust? Like, for example, I remember looking once at Logical Harmony, Cruelty-Free Kitty, and PETA for the brand Laura Geller. One had them listed as cruelty-free, one said they weren't cruelty-free, and one site didn't have them listed anywhere. That's just so confusing. Why is one site more trusted? They can't all three be right about it. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, I feel like this is one of the biggest things to kind of sort out for yourself when you're going cruelty-free. And I want to start by saying that I really don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this, but it can be really confusing and frustrating when you look up a brand on a bunch of different sources and there's conflicting information on it. I made a video last summer about my stance on cruelty-free and what cruelty-free means on my channel. And for myself, I've narrowed it down to two sources that I use pretty much exclusively, and I don't really use the others. Logical Harmony and Leaping Bunny. I feel like those two are, in my opinion, the most trustworthy. Logical Harmony is amazing. It is run by Tashina and her partner Justin, and I don't know how they do it all. I really don't, but they have built this amazing resource. The reason I love Logical Harmony so much is A, their list is extremely comprehensive. They have several different lists. They have an approved brands list, a pending list, a gray area list, and a brands to avoid list. And the thing I love about her is that she does not charge brands any sort of fee in order to be certified. And I know that she goes a lot more in depth than just asking the brands a set of generic questions and just seeing what they say. She asks for documentation on the cruelty-free status of their suppliers. She talks with the higher ups, and she has connections to a lot of brands. She's been doing this for years, and I sound like I'm sponsored by her, but she's the one that I trust the most. And then Leaping Bunny is another. I feel like it's pretty rare that I find conflicting info between Logical Harmony and Leaping Bunny, and in the event that I do, I kind of explained how I figured that out in my other video, so check that out if you want to hear more about my whole philosophy on this. But the really important thing to remember is that no list is perfect. They're all run by human beings. Sometimes brands slip through the cracks. We've seen this with Wet n Wild, Physicians Formula. Both of those brands were on many cruelty-free lists for months before we figured out that they'd been selling in China for months and no one knew about it. So you just kind of have to know that sometimes you're going to be disappointed. No list is perfect. So that's why I use Logical Harmony and Leaping Bunny. I just feel like they are the most trustworthy. PETA is another one. They do have slightly different standards than others, and from what I've seen, slightly more relaxed standards. That's why they do approve brands like Wet n Wild, Physicians Formula, Dove. Those brands are ones that sell in China but claim that they are getting around the animal testing requirement because of the way that the laws have changed. They claim that in the event that the Chinese government wanted to test one of their products on animals, they've kindly asked the Chinese government to please let them know before that happens so that they can take their products off the shelves and not let animal testing happen in that event. I have a very hard time believing that that is how that would go, but some people are fine with that. For some people that's good enough. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer, but that's why I don't use PETA, is just because I know they have slightly different standards than I do. I'm a little more strict. I try to be a little more discerning. And then there are other bloggers. There's Cruelty-Free Kitty, there's Ethical Elephant, there's Fira, there's My Beauty Bunny. There's a bunch. The reason why I don't use all of those is just because there's a lot of conflicting information between all of them. I don't necessarily know what those other bloggers do to determine a brand's status. It may be worth emailing them if you're curious. In fact, I may even do that sometime to ask them, like, hey, what does the process look like for you? I just know that Logical Harmonies is very in-depth. Like I said, it's still possible for brands to slip by without her noticing, but I do think it's very rare that that happens. And I feel like there's honestly in this society, there's no such thing as 100% cruelty-free anyway. When you start looking at the way that humans are treated in the supply chain, workers' wages, we live in a capitalist society, and honestly, the longer I've been cruelty-free, the more I question, does any of this even matter? To be completely honest with you guys. So, long story short, I do not think there is a black and white right or wrong answer. I think there's a lot of gray area in this. So you just have to do what feels right for you. Another question that I got from a few people is about perfume. A lot of people are struggling to find a cruelty-free version of perfume. So there definitely is an abundance of cruelty-free perfume brands that I've found in my research. I myself am not big into perfumes, although I do kind of want to get more into them. I feel like the older I get, the more I'm kind of looking for some like nice mature perfumes to wear. But I only own one perfume right now. It is cruelty-free. It's from a brand called Urban Cowboy. It's spelled Herban, Cowboy. And the scent is Love. This is a brand that they make like deodorants, body washes, and they also make perfumes. These are like $20 a piece. So this is a very like inexpensive perfume option. They don't make a ton of sense. They have this one, and then they have like a blossom one. They might have one other, but I love this scent. It has, let me actually look up the notes. I feel like it's a very universally pleasing scent. It doesn't smell like a cheap perfume to me. It may even be a dupe for something, but I don't know perfumes well enough to say. The description of this, just because I have no idea how to describe it. Love balances fresh and clean while being boldly enticing with bergamot, pink grapefruit, and cedarwood, giving you a spicier way to smell fantastic. Yeah, it's a little sweet, but mostly just really fresh and kind of like a sexy smell. I don't know. I really like it. That's a good budget option. Unfortunately, they just don't make a ton of sense. They do make some men's colognes too, but that's one option. It's the only one I own personally, but there are a few other brands I wanted to mention. Penrose is one that's actually sold at Sephora, so you may even be able to go into the store and smell those with your own nose before you commit to them. Define Me is, I know, sold online at Ulta. I think they're online only though, but I've heard really good things about both of those. Pacifica is another drugstore one. I will say about theirs, because I've had one of theirs in the past, they aren't the longest lasting scents, but they do make a nice variety, and they're like, again, like 20 bucks a piece. Lush makes perfumes. The Body Shop, Ulta brand, I don't think they make perfumes, but they do make like body sprays that are similar to what you might get at Bath & Body Works. And the Ulta brand actually is cruelty-free. KKW fragrance is actually 100% vegan and cruelty-free. I didn't realize that, but there's another option. And Harvey Prince. So I'll list all those down below if you want to check them out. But there are certainly options at all price points, so hopefully that gave you some ideas for things to try out. Vegan versus cruelty-free and which to prioritize. So a lot of people don't know this, but there is a difference between just the definitions of vegan and cruelty-free. To a lot of people it is the same thing, but when we're just talking strictly definitions, cruelty-free is used to describe a brand that does not test on animals, and vegan is used to describe any product that does not contain animal-derived ingredients. So in cosmetics, a lot of times those ingredients will be things like beeswax, carmine, which comes from insects, lanolin, which comes from sheep's wool. Those are just a few examples. This is just up for personal preference, honestly. If you're wanting to know what I think, I am 100% cruelty-free. I do still use products that contain animal-derived ingredients. There are some ingredients that I for sure avoid, like anything like dairy or egg derived, just because I don't eat those things, so I also really just don't want them on my skin either. But there's some animal ingredients that just aren't as big of an issue to me personally, so I kind of just handle it on a case-by-case basis, I guess. But some people are strictly vegan and cruelty-free. Logical Harmony, again, has a ton of brands' vegan product lists on her website, because sometimes even if you do look at the ingredients, it's hard to tell which ingredients could be animal-derived, because there's some ingredients, like I think glycerin is an example. Glycerin can either come from animals or plants. So she checks with the brands and does all the behind-the-scenes research to figure out which products are truly vegan. That's another great resource if that is a concern to you. And then also be aware though that just because a product says that it's vegan does not mean it's cruelty-free. I know L'Oreal has marketed one of their lines of shampoos to be vegan, but L'Oreal still isn't cruelty-free. So I don't really understand why a person would only use vegan products even if they're not cruelty-free. That seems a little backwards to me, but then again, I'm sure to some people it also seems backwards to use cruelty-free and not necessarily all vegan. Okay, how to better understand when brands are lying. Not sure how to articulate it, but I know some brands will say that they're cruelty-free, but then when I look further into it, example of Logical Harmony, it says that they're not actually cruelty-free. How do brands get away with this and what wording should we look out for? The reason brands get away with it is because there's no legal definition of cruelty-free. Literally any brand can claim that they're cruelty-free and get away with it. So you just cannot rely on a brand's word. You always have to look a little bit deeper into it. Wording to look out for, all of it. Definitely if a brand says, we do not test on animals, and then further down it'll say, except we're required by law. Yes, that's true that the brand itself is not testing on animals, but they're basically allowing others to do it on their behalf by choosing to sell in markets where animal testing is required. So that's something to look out for. A lot of brands will say that. In fact, most brands that are otherwise cruelty-free but that sell in China, and there are other markets that do require animal testing, maybe not on every single product, but in certain cases they'll require it. So if they're saying anything about required by law testing, just be aware of that. You probably want to look into it a little bit further. Any brand that says our finished products are not tested on animals, that only covers their finished products. It doesn't really account for ingredients. There's a lot of ways that brands can be sneaking around. Even if they themselves aren't testing on animals, they could be sourcing ingredients from brands that test on animals, or they have no idea the history of the ingredients they're sourcing, how they were tested, if they were tested. So there's just a lot to look out for, which is why a lot of times you'll see brands that look otherwise great. They may even be small indie brands that you just want to assume the best for, but then you look them up further and find that they're either kind of gray area or not cruelty-free. And a lot of time it's just because there's so many things that go into it that we as consumers honestly probably can't even begin to understand how complicated it is. So just be discerning. You really just can't trust what brands say. Okay, another sentiment that I've been getting a lot is something that Lena said. Maybe a more personal question, but do you ever get frustrated? I'm trying to go cruelty-free, but Physicians Formula selling in China and lying to people makes me want to pull my hair out. What if everyone is basically doing this? How can we even be sure who is telling the truth and who isn't at this point? I'm not giving up on it, but I'm very frustrated at the moment and want to know if others feel the same. Yeah, I definitely hear that a lot, and I agree that it's frustrating. One thing I want to kind of throw out there is that companies cannot and do not have moral values. They are not people, they're run by people. They may start out being run by people who are, you know, really ethically minded and to whom cruelty-free and all of that stuff is really important to them, but companies themselves, they're comprised of a bunch of people and decisions that are made solely for the purpose of making money. Brands exist to make money, period. So I really think we need to lower our expectations, honestly. And I'm not saying it's not disappointing that Physicians Formula went and started selling in China, but I'm not necessarily like heartbroken about it, because this might sound really backwards to people, but I'm trying to explain myself. They're a company. They exist to make money. I can absolutely understand why they would choose to sell in China. How many people live in China? Hold on. As of December 27th, 2019, 1.4 billion people live in China. That is a huge, huge market. Do I wish that brands would stay out of China until animal testing is no longer required? Absolutely, but I totally get it. Like, from a business perspective, Physicians Formula is a business. Like, I know we all love their products and we love what we thought they stood for, but at the end of the day, they're a business. And I think we just need to lower our expectations of brands, to be completely honest, and just do our best we're gonna be disappointed. There's always, you know, little wins, like when CoverGirl went cruelty-free, they stopped selling in China, that was great. Yeah, I mean, I think progress is being made. Yes, we're taking steps backwards in some areas, but at the end of the day, in this society, like there's just no way we can expect brands to have the same moral values that we do as individuals. So to answer your question, what if everyone is basically doing this? So she's saying like Physicians Formula was lying about it for months. What if everyone's doing that? I think the majority of cruelty-free brands, especially smaller ones, but a lot of them actively choose not to sell in China and are very open about that. So I think we can rest assured that the vast majority of brands on Logical Harmony and on Leaping Bunny are not selling in China. It's possible for brands to start and not let anyone know, but I think that probably like 99% of the time, that's not what's happening. Not all cruelty-free brands are on Logical Harmony, especially for us in the UK. How do you trust the Leaping Bunny certification and what makes you accept their cruelty-free status? I read through their whole, like, this is what we ask brands, this is the documentation we require, and all of it sounded satisfactory to me. So I encourage you to do that for any source that you're using. Look at what is it that they're looking for when they're investigating brands, and what do they require a brand to be able to tell them in order to be listed on their site? What documentation do they ask for? Do they look into ingredient suppliers? Do they, you know, have to sign a waiver, or do they have to sign a pact that they won't sell in required by law testing areas, all that. So yeah, that's how I came to that decision. I read through, I can link it below, Leaping Bunny's like whole what they look for. The thing about Leaping Bunny though is that it's not really a comprehensive list. There are a lot of brands that are not cruelty-free, or no, there are a lot of brands that are cruelty-free that are not Leaping Bunny certified, unfortunately. So maybe you could look into other like maybe UK organizations that are doing something similar. Another thing to note about both PETA and Leaping Bunny is that they do charge brands a fee in order to be certified. So take that for what you will. This is a good question from Crystal. Do you think there's ever an acceptable time to purchase from a non-cruelty-free company? Or is it okay to purchase and use beauty items that might have otherwise gone to waste? This is another thing that's just kind of up for personal preference. I absolutely think there are cases where it's totally okay to buy a non-cruelty-free product. Personally, I don't ever make an exception for makeup or skincare, but if it's more of like a medical product, like for example, my doctor recommended that I use a specific kind of soap. I'm not sure if the brand is cruelty-free. It's called the Natural Beauty Cleansing Bar. It's supposed to have like the perfect pH for your body. I went with that because I do have very sensitive skin, and that's one example. The brand may very well be cruelty-free. It sounds like a cruelty-free brand, but I couldn't find it on really any list. So that's one example where I would make an exception. Anything that a doctor recommends I do for medical reasons, that's a case where I would make an exception. I take medications. Medications just by nature are not cruelty-free typically. They're usually tested on animals, if I understand correctly, so just do the best you can, honestly. And is it okay to purchase and use beauty items that might have otherwise gone to waste? I'm not sure when you would purchase an item that would go to waste, but I can totally see why you'd want to use up a non-cruelty-free product before you go out and find a cruelty-free replacement. It just depends on your comfort level, but that's just my thoughts on it. Moving on to some Instagram questions. My girl Raw Paint, I love her by the way. She actually made a video that really got me thinking about some of the problems with just focusing on cruelty-free. It was called, I think, The Nuances of Cruelty-Free, something like that. I'm gonna link her video below. It's an older video. I heard about it from my other YouTube friend, Too Much Tosh, and it's a great video. It might get you thinking a little bit beyond this like black and white cruelty-free thinking that we often kind of fall into, so tangent there. But her question was, it seems that drugstore cruelty-free brands have limited shade ranges. Have you come across any that are pretty good? I definitely think it's getting better. I agree that it has not been great historically. I know that CoverGirl, the foundation ranges that they've been releasing at least over the past couple of years, have been a lot better than their past releases. It looks like it comes in 40 shades, and they range from light to medium to tan to deep, and it looks like an actual decent shade range. Another one that actually surprised me, because Pacifica has had abysmal shade ranges in the past, but their Pacifica a light clean foundation they released, I think like last year, actually has a pretty good shade range. I feel like most of the new drugstore foundation releases have actually had pretty good shade ranges, so I do have hope that it's getting better. The new Milani Screen Queen foundation that I've heard really good things about also comes in, how many shades is that? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this comes in 5 times 9, 45 shades. And that looks like a pretty good shade range as well. So that's another good one. NYX, I know their like recent foundation releases have been a little bit better too. So I do think it's getting better. But it has taken the drugstore quite a bit of time to finally get their act together with that. One person said, I struggled with logos at first. Some look like Leaping Bunny and some aren't. So yeah, brands can literally just like put a little image of a bunny on their packaging that says cruelty-free, and it means nothing. If you do see the Leaping Bunny, normally you can rest assured that they are in fact Leaping Bunny certified. Probably still want to check online though, because I've heard cases of brands using a logo even when they weren't actually certified by that brand. So what the different cruelty-free symbol and company accreditations mean. So as far as I know, the 3 like official symbols are the PETA symbol, the Leaping Bunny symbol, and the Choose Cruelty-Free one, which I think is like an Australian organization. I could be wrong about that. Those are the official ones, and if you want to know more about each one, I would just go to their website and kind of read more about what they do, what they look at when they're investigating brands. They're all a little different, which is why some of them disagree. What cruelty-free razors and paper towels / toilet paper do you use? Those are hard to find. Razors, I use Preserve brand. I use their 5-blade razors. Those are actually pretty good. The 3-blade razors are terrible, so don't get those, but the 5-blade are great. I've been using that for years, and they're a cruelty-free brand. They use like recycled plastic, so cool company. And honestly, paper towels and toilet paper are not a concern to me. If they are, I know 7th Generation makes those, and 7th Generation is a cruelty-free brand. Usually I'll just buy like the Aldi store brand though. I don't know, should I not do that? Do you feel restricted by being cruelty-free? The only time I feel restricted by it is when I am buying something like something that's a staple, like toothpaste or laundry, like dryer sheets or something, or like either a household or like personal care staple. And I know that if I were buying the non-cruelty-free version or like the generic version, I could be paying like a fraction of the price. Like cruelty-free toothpastes are usually like $5 or $6, and yes, you can get them on sale. I try not to spend more than like $3-ish on toothpaste, but I mean, if I were just buying like the cheap Colgate toothpaste, I would probably be spending like what, $1 or $2 versus $4 or $5 sometimes. So that's the part that makes me not necessarily feel restricted, because I feel like I can totally find a cruelty-free version of anything I could possibly need, but it's just when I know that I'm spending way more than I otherwise would be. In most cases though, like especially when it comes to makeup and skincare, you really don't have to spend a lot of money on cruelty-free products. There's plenty of inexpensive drugstore brands to choose from. I know we just lost 2 of them, but there's still options. And same with skincare, body care, hair care, tons of affordable options, again, that I shared in my starter kit video. Speaking of toothpaste, I hate every cruelty-free toothpaste I've tried. Have you found any that taste normal? Some of them definitely taste kind of weird. I'm not really picky about toothpaste. The one that I really didn't like was the Trader Joe's brand. That one tastes so bitter to me. The least offensive cruelty-free toothpaste flavors I've found have been the Hello brand. Those are pretty mild flavors from what I've tried, and they all taste pretty similar to like non-cruelty-free toothpaste. So Hello, and then the other one I've really liked was the brand Kiss My Face. I'm not sure how easy they are to find nowadays. They're really any of theirs. I think the Triple Action and the whitening ones, those both tasted really good to me, like way better than Tom's or some of the other like more hippie toothpastes. Again, like I said, I'm not picky. I just use Tom's toothpaste. I feel like they've definitely improved their flavor over the years. But I would look into Hello and Kiss My Face. I think this is the last question I'm going to answer because I know this video is getting long. But it's a really good one. Purchasing from indie brands who say they are cruelty-free but aren't official. So there definitely are a lot of small indie brands that are confirmed cruelty-free, but then there are a lot that are not, that I see people using, that people are saying are cruelty-free because the brand themselves say they are, and they're small brands, so you want to believe them, right? Because they're indie brands. Everybody loves indie brands. And I'm not saying that they're unethical by any means, but from what I've heard, I've talked to Sheena a little bit about this. A lot of times with these small indie brands, they're sourcing their ingredients from non-reputable suppliers. I have no doubt that these brands are probably not testing their own products on animals and not selling in China, but I think it's the sourcing of ingredients that could be the problem with those. And so that's why I always wait for some sort of official confirmation on those brands' cruelty-free status, because I know they're all run by very hardworking people and they're making amazing products, but I do worry about their kind of sourcing practices. So I think I just got to as many questions as I possibly could without this video being like 3 hours long. I really hope this was helpful. I hope it wasn't too cynical, but I feel like I've learned a thing or two since being cruelty-free for all these years, so hopefully it will help anyone who is just starting out, just kind of understanding like the ins and outs and what kinds of like sneaky language and loopholes that brands use to deceive people, because it happens a lot. That's why I really do rely quite a bit on those official certifications, because there's just a lot to look into with brands. But thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Definitely, you know, like I said, none of this is black and white. We're all just kind of figuring it out and doing whatever feels right to us. So I really don't think there's a right or wrong answer to any of this, but I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will talk to you very soon in my next video. Bye.